This is Protocol 1. I'm James Neilson-Watt. If you are successful but not fulfilled, you're running industrial age software on space age hardware. It's time for an upgrade. Don't settle.
Hey, Matt, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you on. We had some really good banter beforehand, and I wanted to get into it. So tell our audience about yourself, your backstory, who are you, and yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, James, and all that are listening. I'm blessed and honored to be here. Matt Scoletti, I'm 42 years old from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I guess a quick story is I was a high school basketball player growing up. I loved hoops, played for 4 years, varsity basketball. And really, it felt like I had almost everything going for me going into college. And I had great grades. I got into a good school and I got into college and I got introduced to this thing called alcohol. And I think a lot of people here in the States have that. And for me, I have a very addictive personality and the alcohol went off the rails quick. I was drinking 4 nights a week freshman year. I was drinking every night of the week by senior year. And I thought I'll just graduate and then go back to normal, but that's not really the hold that alcohol has on you. And it took a hold of me until about 2016 when I was able to, I think life is full of all these moments. And it was one of those moments where my dad is one of my idols. I woke up hungover in their house because I couldn't drive home after a night that was supposed to be sober. And I'm 33 years old, waking up hungover in my parents' house. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. And it was like the look on my dad's face of, I know how much he loves me. And I knew how much I disappointed him by what I was doing to my mind and my body. And I went, as an obsessive person, I completely shifted in that moment of extreme pain, seeing the pain in his eyes and the pain of who I was becoming, which I was not a man. I was just a little kid still running around like a 21-year-old. And I started to become obsessed with health and wellness, and it absolutely snowballed into an obsession that is still roaring strong to this day. And I'm happy to get into I have fun stories that you want to hear about on any of the fitness journey. I love marathons. I've run over 130 marathons. I love ultra running, 50 miles, 100 miles. Anything that sounds crazy sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, well, you have a podcast yourself, don't you?
Yeah, I have a podcast called Challenges Build Champions. And when I start interviewing again, if that does happen, you're number one on there, James.
Appreciate you. Well, I think the first things I'd love to jump into is you talked about having an addictive personality. I can relate to that. I find that for myself, I'm all in or I'm nothing.
Yep.
And there's this mentality of like, I've grown with it and I've learned from it. But especially when I was younger, it's like if I'm like, I got into jujitsu or whatever. And I'm like, if I can't go 4 times a week around everything else that I was doing, which felt like a lot to me, and obsess over it on the internet and like research everything and become a champ. It was like, why am I doing this? And for a long time, I struggled with that of like, if I'm not, then why am I doing this? Speak about your perspective on your addictive personality, as you labeled it, or addiction in general. Yeah, what's your perspective?
I relate to what you just said in a big way. And it was like, I was obsessed with basketball up until I still love basketball, but up until college. And then it was this obsession over drinking and partying. And I think part of the problem for me, James, was I liked who I was becoming, at least in that moment where I was the fun guy. I was the guy that, hey, invite Scoletti over there and he'll bring all these people to the party. And
Yeah.
I'm a social guy anyways. And the alcohol just ramped it up to a level where I didn't have any fears and I didn't throw inhibition to the wind and all that stuff, which I think, and I'm actually just thinking of this now that you asked me that, all of those qualities, I think I wanted courage so bad, I took the easy route in that way. And alcohol, as you know, like liquid courage. I can talk to any girl on campus if I have 7 beers in me. And I have ADHD a bit. So it is almost like something when I'm focused in and lasered in on it, I block out everything else and I can just lock in. And in that scenario, it was in an unhealthy way until I got around better people and realized what I was doing to myself. And really, the addiction was, I blamed other people for my addiction. I was so good at that. I blamed my friends, my family. I blamed God. I blamed my coworkers. And it wasn't until I realized they weren't feeding me alcohol. There's one person that is responsible for all of this. And I just didn't want to face it for 15 years.
10 years is a long time. You talked about people around you blaming, and you were blaming them and everything but yourself. What was the change? Like, what if someone's listening to this going, yeah, I'm struggling with something, or maybe there's something that I want to face. It's like, it's that voice in the back of their head, and they know some stuff. Like, I think we all know when we're doing things that are not in alignment with our ultimate destiny, but it's overcoming that fear. It's overcoming that perception of the judgment. Even though we might be being judged or judging ourselves, it's like, we know that judgment. So we're almost okay with that judgment. It's that hypothetical future judgment and what that means. What did that feel like to you? And for someone listening, like, how can they think about it if they're wanting to change?
Yeah, that's a great question, James. To me, and I didn't learn this until I actually went to my first Tony Robbins event a couple years after hitting this rock bottom, but it was the moment where I finally looked at myself and I took accountability for everything I was doing. Before, I didn't do that. And B, this was the biggest one where I actually wrote down, and I have the sheet of paper. I saved it from, I did one in 2011, the one that really got me over the hump in 2016. I wrote down who I would be in 10 years if I stayed exactly the same. And what I wrote down was, and I mean, I get emotional even just thinking about it, was along the lines of, I'm in jail. I have no friends. I have destroyed my body. I'm in a hospital bed. If I continued on that road of drinking that much alcohol, and quite honestly, death was definitely an option, that if my body couldn't handle 10 plus more years of that intense drinking. And it wasn't until that where the pain of staying the same finally felt worse. Like, it was like, oh my, it's going to be more painful if I do nothing and stay on this trajectory than changing. And then in that moment, seeing my dad's disappointment, knowing the disappointment that I had in myself, that was the moment where it's like, it's time to make a shift and change the entire trajectory of my life.
I've done a lot of Tony Robbins. He's been influential for me in changing my life. I think a lot of people don't understand. Like, if you're an outsider, you just think you see these raving lunatics like jumping around. I think people
That's partially true.
miss this. I think people miss the context to what's going on. I think a lot of people feel, at least those that I talk to, it's like, I need to learn some stuff. I need to know some stuff. And like, intellectually, I'm going to change things. But I found that change doesn't come from what I think about. Change comes from how I act, what I do, and who I'm looking to become. It's more of like an energetic thing than it is a thought-based process. What's been your experience?
I mean, that is unbelievably true. I think I'm in total agreement with that, where, I mean, how many times even did I say when I was trying to stop drinking of like, I know I need to stop. Well, if I knew it, I would stop. Or I mean, I was overweight. I was 55 pounds overweight. I was obese, and thinking like, I know I should lose weight. Oh, I don't know, because I'm not in the process of taking the action to move forward. I'm with you 100%, James. The one thing I realized for me was I chunked it down into almost as small as 15-minute chunks when I was starting the sobriety journey of, can I just come home from work for 15 minutes and not start drinking? Like, let's focus on that. And it was almost chunking it down into these smaller pieces. But to your point, it was definitely actions, because every time I succeeded in one of these, it could be the smallest little action ever, it was a vote for, that's the new person that I'm becoming. And as I know you know this, what started to shift was how I saw myself. And like, identity, my identity before is this drunk party guy that would pass out and black out 5 nights a week. And now it was shifting where maybe my identity is somebody that can be just as fun, but also be extremely healthy. What if that was my new identity? And with every action, it built that identity like building blocks on top of each other, where I started to believe it. And then it got really, really fun.
Yeah, I've coached a lot of patients because I was a chiropractor for almost 10
Yeah.
years, and I've coached a lot of entrepreneurs. And in the last 13 years of that, plus my own stuff, like it's becoming more and more apparent that identity is everything, because too many people try and solve problems for themselves with strategy because I don't know, I think it's a combination, but it's like either I don't want to accept that I need to change, or we're blind to that because everyone else around us shares the same delusion that success is as a result of the strategy. Because when we ask a successful person, what did you do? And they're like, I just did this, this, and this. That we think that, well, if I just do this, this, and this, then it will change. But we then go to the gym or whatever. Let's say I'm get a six pack. Well, I just did this. And then we go there and we're like, oh, I don't want to do this. This sucks. And Netflix is better. And I like cake. And the reality is like the gap between where you are and where you want to be is less about strategically what you do, and it's more about the fact that you are doing. So Tony talks about RPM, right? Result, purpose, massive action. If you want to get anything, you got to know what you want because it's the direction that you're going in. Otherwise, I'm just like, fuck, I'm doing a bunch of random stuff. Two, I've got to have a reason why I'm doing it. I can't just be like, I want $1 million. Why? I don't know. It might be cool because there's not enough reasons to do it. If you have those two things alone, everything else falls into place because you were so driven that you will just do stuff. And his premise is write down all the things, the massive action plan, all the things you could do and just go crazy, and then start to circle the ones that you're going to prioritize doing, and then you just got to pick one and then just do it. And then as you do it, you'll get a result, and then you'll learn from that, and it'll either work or it won't or whatever. But I think if there's anything that the audience can get from this, from my experience, it's you're not going to know how to get anywhere, because if you did know how, you'd already be doing it. So stop asking how. Number two is you're not going to know how even if you think you do, because it's not going to end up in the way that you thought it was going to be. It's going to be all over the show. What gets you there is being clear on what you think it's going to look like, and then having massive reasons. Like if I had an easy example of this is my kids are in a burning building and there's razor wire and there's alligators and everything all in the way, and my kids are going to die a horrible death, right? I'm probably going to figure out how to get them out or die trying. But if there's $5, $10, $1 million in there, you're like, I don't know. I saw this internet meme and it was really good. The guy said, if would you take $1 million from me? Would you take $10 million from me if I gave it to you? The person's like, yeah. And he goes, okay, what if I gave you $10 million that you died tomorrow? Like, you're going to have the money, and as a result of having the money, you're going to live 24 hours and then you're going to die. Would you take the money? And it's like, well, no. And he goes, so therefore money is not more important than your life. Your life is worth more than $10 million. Now, there is some person in some situation, I know this, who might say, well, yes, I'll take the money because then my family, my child can have the healthcare they need, etc.
Yeah.
But that is because their reasons now go beyond the value of their life, which is something that, a lot of us parents will relate to. But in principle here, the identity that you hold is what gets you the success. It's not the things you are doing. Ironically, what we talk about, like you got to do stuff to get a result. It's not the doing. It's not the strategy. It's the mindset. And so for you, you said to yourself, I'm going to just not drink for 15 minutes, which to someone who doesn't have a drinking problem, that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But to someone who's in it, that feels crazy too, because why would you not drink? Because it's going to give me all the pleasure, all the certainty, the significance, the connection, all the human needs are going to be met through that, or at least enough of them, and hence why it's addictive. So depending on your perspective, depending on your identity, that is hard or easy, right? Who was it? I think was it Ed Milet? I think that's Ed Milet. He has a book or something about like one more day.
Yeah, the power of one more.
Yeah, I've tried to live by that. Did you have an idea of this? Like, did this come from somewhere for you, or did you kind of just spontaneously be like, shit, 15 more minutes?
You know what? It just seemed like an amount of time that I could handle. Like that was pretty much as simple as it was. It was a short enough time. Like anybody could do anything for 15 minutes, and an hour almost seemed like too intimidating because I would drink while I was making dinner, and I'm like, okay, dinner's over an hour away. Like, what if it's just 15 minutes at a time? And I almost had to make it that short so I would follow through with it. As I'm sure you read Atomic Habits, where he talks about, I think it's the 2-minute rule, where you just do something for 2 minutes. Like you don't focus. If you're not a runner, you don't think, all right, I'm going to run 5 miles tomorrow. You think, I'm going to put on my running shoes and walk out the door. That's it. Like that takes
Yes.
2 minutes. And it's almost like the smaller we get into that time frame, it's so simple to do something for 2 minutes, then it becomes a habit. And then for people like me, it becomes addicting. Like like the healthy living became addicting. And when people ask like, well, why don't you like, you ever just go off the rails on a weekend or something? And like, I eat unhealthy here and there, but my response is always, I'm 42 and I feel like I'm 20. Why would I want to go down that road of eating unhealthy for 3, 4, 5 days in a row when I know what that feels like? Then I'll feel like I'm 60 if I do that. So I want to
Yeah.
keep my energy as high as I possibly can for as long as I possibly can.
You've got kids, right?
No, not yet. We're hopeful. No, me and my wife are, yeah, we shall see. But yeah, we're hoping.
So with kids, you have this acute awareness of that, like, just do it for 2 minutes thing, because the kid doesn't want to eat the piece of broccoli, or they don't want to put their pants on, or they don't want to whatever. And so there is no, we're going to have a perfect day. There is, let's try and not melt down for the next 2 minutes or the next 10 minutes, right? Let's just bite that broccoli. Let's just go to the door, let's just put our shoe on and then we'll see what happens. Like, it's like, that's how you're managing their life, especially when they're in a state where they're not processing things well. And I think that we forget that with ourselves. Tony talks about, like, how long would you give a baby to walk before you just say to it, hey, walking's not for you, and it's like, never. It's like, my kid's going to walk. I'm going to help him. I'm going to get him classes. But we quit so easily. But it takes a kid years to learn how to walk. It takes a kid years to learn how to put on their shoes. It takes a kid years to deal with their emotions. Most adults don't deal with their emotions. I think all of us, if we just implemented that for anything. That's what I do. It's like, I'm too hard on myself. I'm like, if I'm going to run, I'm going to be a runner, right? Like, I'm going to be running marathons. I'm going to do this, right? I don't sort of tend to go halfway. Was an identity that I had in the past, and I'm breaking through that. And so for me, when we were in Thailand last year, I picked up running on the treadmill, and I immediately felt this, like, I've got to run, right? So then I just said, fuck it. I'm just going to get on the treadmill and just run until I don't want to anymore. And I would run, and it was like, oh, I ran for 3 minutes. This sucks. I'm getting off. And then it was, I came back the next day and I was like, oh, I went to 4 minutes. And then I got to 10 minutes. I was like, I just ran 10 minutes. That's nuts. And I was then noticing that my intensity was too high. And so I was like, oh, I'd like to run for 12 minutes, but this is maybe a bit intense right now. What if I just made it a bit easier and I just focused on length of time of moving at a moderate pace? And so I took the pressure off the achievement in my mind of what it had to be. And then I did something that was really important, is I celebrated that small thing, because my mind says it's small, which prevents me from doing it because my mind wants to see me as big. And I think we all do that. So for you, how did you incorporate celebration into what you were doing with the 15 minutes? If at all, did you even include it?
That's a great question. And looking back at that, James, I love that you celebrate. Like, I think that's, as we learned with Tony Robbins events, how important that is. I think how I celebrated in the beginning was, and this may sound silly to some people too, but even going the first weekend that I went sober, I just got goosebumps just saying that out loud. It was like, oh my God, I can have a weekend where I remember everything that happened and I enjoyed myself. I did some reading and I learned. It was almost like I couldn't even understand that was possible, because for 15 years I drank every weekend. And I think I celebrated more in really simple ways. Like, one thing that I would do in the house that I had when all these challenges were happening, I would just sit out back of the house by myself and just look out and relax and smile and be like, oh my goodness, like, this journey has been so wild and incredible. And I think part of why I celebrated like that was, again, to my personality, I was too nervous that if I celebrated with like a cheesecake, then the next 5 nights I'd go out and buy a cheesecake. And then I would be like, crap, now I just gained 17 pounds and I'm back to where I was. So I think I celebrate in smaller, simple ways of like playing a song. My wife and I do this, like, play a song in the house and just dance like crazies for 3 minutes. Like, that to me is as fun of a celebration as like a top of the line, high end dinner type thing. I'm not really that guy anyways, because I'm much more relaxed and laid back. But Yeah, I found simple, small ways to celebrate in almost like a gratitude celebration way.
Yeah, I should have prefaced that for everyone listening. When I say celebrate, I mean like looking inward and going, you did awesome. Like, how can we create that positive feeling for the things that our brain wants to say don't matter? Because if it doesn't matter, then why did you do it? And
Yeah.
why did I do it means then I won't do it. So you want to celebrate the things that you are doing that you want to be doing more of. That's the best way to lead a human being. By the way, sidetrack, this applies to kids. Like if all you did was punish, then they're just expecting to be told off and they never know what to do instead. So if a kid is doing something and whacking a wall with something, it's like, oh, do you want to hit things with a stick? And they're like, yeah. And you go, cool, here's a box you can hit with a stick. Great job hitting the box. And now the kid does what he wants. He's not thinking, I'm going to destroy this wall. I hate you. He's thinking, I want to hit stuff with a stick. So then you take him to somewhere where he can hit stuff with a stick. And you celebrate them for doing the thing that you want them to do more than you punish them for the thing that you don't want them to do. And they will learn what things are appropriate and good. With a relationship, same thing. Like if your spouse is running late and they didn't text you and you're all worried, when they come home, if you berate them, then they're going to think, I missed you. I was running late. Like, why do I even come home? And because they're going to interpret your fear that you're putting onto them as an attack instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're home and safe. I was feeling worried because I hadn't heard from you and my mind went crazy. I love you. I love you. I love you. That person goes, oh my gosh, I was just running late, but look at all this love I got. I'm going to text them every time next time because I want more of that love. And I think that we need to do that with ourselves. And so the celebration, like, I don't go to dinner. I don't like buying expensive food. I'm
I don't either.
pretty cheap
No,
in general, but celebrating in terms of like jumping up and down and acting like an idiot and creating that physical feeling of celebration. Like, you know, when you feel really good, it's like, how can I create that physical feeling in my body about that thing that I did? Because I'm trying to anchor good feelings to doing that so that I do more of it. Because it's not about the amount. Like I say this to my clients and people I've coached over the years. It's like, if I want to make $1 million, I can get one person to give me $1 million, or I can get 1 million people to give me $1, or some combination in between. And so if that's what has to happen, then what has to happen to get a person to give me $1 or $10 or $1,000? And then what has to happen to talk to somebody to get them to do it? And you go right down to, I've got to open my laptop and message some people. Right. And so if you break it down into its smallest components and celebrate yourself for doing it, you create a positive feedback loop that encourages you to do more of that thing that accumulates in you getting that target. And so for you, 15 minutes led to how many years has it been now?
To almost 10 years sober. Yeah, almost 10 years.
Yeah. And it started with 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Crazy.
that's exactly right. Started with 15 minutes. And I just appreciate what you're saying, James. And maybe you can even add a little bit more, because as you're talking and talking about how you have talked to your clients about celebrating, and I'm sure some people listening to this, a lot of people listening to this, are there ways, like, how do you celebrate? Because I would love to keep learning new ways. I'm probably not great at that, and maybe you can speak to it too, and those that listening can relate. It almost feels like, well, really, should I be celebrating myself? Like, isn't that selfish a little bit? Until you do it, and I'm like, wow, this feels great, and I want more feelings like that. So I would love to. I would love to hear how you do it.
Well, I think you said something powerful there. It's like, isn't that selfish? I think the reframe, and I know that you're not saying this, right? But I think the reframe is, it's incredibly selfish to not be your best, because then you show up as a shithead to everybody else, which is in fact selfish. So if I don't have a good sleep, then I'm a dick to my kids. That's selfish. Even if I had to take an early night and say no to somebody else so that I could have my sleep, I could say, well, it's selfish to this person because I chose sleep instead of whatever. Ultimately, you're right. It is selfish to say no to that person if I don't have a frame of reference as to what I value, like what my values are. If my values are my children, my work, the people that I'm responsible to, etc., if I'm not clear on who that is, God, whatever, then it does feel selfish because I have no line in the sand of how I operate or where I operate from. And so I think the first exercise is to look outside yourself and go, who am I responsible for, who needs me to be my best, so that I've now got that circle of influence of like, these people rely on me, right? Like I thought about it the other day with our businesses and stuff. I'm paying so many people's mortgages and rent and food and like childcare and all these things. And I was like, it's not that they're paying that, I'm paying that. because they work for me and I pay them and then they pay for those things. So we have an arrangement. You've got to do certain stuff to receive your pay. But if I don't keep this thing going, then this thing collapses. This person doesn't get paid. Now, they could get another job, but I don't want to live like that, because that frame then lowers the responsibility and accountability necessary for me to achieve the things I want to achieve. So I want to feel like this has to work, because they won't have a job otherwise, and there's no jobs to get. So I've got to make sure that I'm doing things to take care of them. So in so doing, I must say no to certain things that are outside of my circle of value, I suppose you could say, so that I can be the right person for the circle of value. And therefore I have a frame of reference of like, what is selfish and what is not selfish. So when someone asks me, hey, let's go get some drinks, number one, I don't drink. Do you know that? Because I'm going to be sipping lemonade, and that might be not fun for you. And B, I'm probably going to go home early because I don't really care about being out at night. I got a cool family at home. And C, do we really have to go out, or do you just want to come around to my house and we can do something else? And so it's like, and then they'll go, oh, okay, I don't want to do those things. And go, great, then it's not selfish, right? Because I've got my circle. It's like, these things matter. So yeah, we'll go out, but I'm home at 9. Like, I'm not, unless it's like a real special occasion, and then my wife's going to be there, and like, there's layers. But to your point around celebrating, I think firstly, you've got to know what your circle of value is. And then the frame changes from it's selfish to take care of me to it's selfish not to, because I'm the athlete and the club is dependent on the athlete to perform. So the athlete needs to be at the athlete's best, and not doing that is selfish. So celebration is just simply, how do I make myself feel really good about what I was doing? So for me, it could be writing a little note to myself. Like, this sounds stupid, but play the game. What I think about is like, play the game, guys. Write a little note to yourself and then like tuck it under your laptop. And then when you come back from the bathroom, be like, oh, I've got an admirer. They left me a note and they're like, you're doing a great job. Appreciate you. And I'm like, oh, damn, that feels good. Like, anything, if you don't have that cheerleader, like I got my wife, she's an amazing cheerleader. But if you don't have that cheerleader, cheerlead for yourself. Because you've got to have the fuel. We're humans. We need to love. We need to feel connected. And the first person you connect with is you, so that you could be present to everybody else, to the universe, to what you have in front of you. A good practice in general to help find yourself so that you can celebrate, I think, is gratitude. I do a lot of that. It's like looking around and feeling the table and being like, man, I'm grateful for this table that I can sit at and I can put my laptop on. Because otherwise it's like, oh, this table is not quite the right height and I don't like the color. It doesn't match this. And like, you'll find negative shit. It's easy. But you've got to find the positive stuff, and you've got to play this game of like, the winner is the one who feels the best. The winner is the one who has the most love and energy. The winner is the one who's the most grateful, because then you've got all this fuel. And the irony is, through my journey with Tony Robbins, like I had beliefs where people are the cause of problems. My dad left when I was young. I had a bad relationship with my mom. I didn't have much family support, things like that. From my perceptions, I may have had it, but from my perceptions, right? And I changed that belief to all good things come from people. And at an event, when I made that change, something changed in me. I showed up better for my clients. I showed up better for my friends. I showed up better for myself, because I realized that if there's anything that I want to achieve or feel or have or do, some other human being has to be a part of that value chain. And so I am to love people. If I love people, then not only can I get more, achieve more, whatever, but I can also contribute more. I can have a more full life. And so I used to have to drink to talk to people. And now I'm more fun, more playful, more like I'm drunk than my friends who would drink to get their social lubrication. And I'll do it in the street on a Tuesday at 2:00. Like, I'll talk to any stranger. And so Darcy, we get laid a lot because I tend to just talk to people, as I'm doing right now. But this is not who I was originally. This is a switch because I made a decision, and it started with the practice of gratitude and looking at things and going, what are the good things? And it kept coming up, people are the good things. And there are so many people struggling, which is why they're dicks, but it's not them. It's their situation, their resourcefulness. Let's look at all the good. And that's how I found that for myself. So to go full circle, I think start with gratitude, find the things that are good in your life, and then play that game of that little kid. My kids love to imagine that they're characters and whatever. It's like, how can we imagine and manufacture that? Because your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what you tell it is real. Your memories aren't real. They're distortions, deletions. They're framed based on the emotions. It's all bullshit. So you might as well just tell myself some bullshit that makes me feel real good, but does not harm anybody else, right? So it's positive, so that I can feel more and I can show up as the best version of me, which then not only does it attract people and things and opportunities, but you see more of them and you can take more action on it. And that 15 minutes becomes 10 years, you know?
Well played, bringing it all back together. I love that. I love you do such a good job articulating the celebrating you, James. And I do want to add this in there as we're talking about making a change and weigh in as well on your end. I think for me, it was so important to celebrate myself in my own ways, especially in the beginning of a shift. For those that are watching this and you want to make a change, if it's stop drinking, if it's starting a business, if it's losing weight, whatever the goal is and the shift is, for me anyways, it was met with a lot of resistance from people around me. And they could see he's making a change. He's not eating dessert. He's not having wine when he comes over. He's running to these different events. And I don't know if it's something with the circle that I was in, and even it was extended family as well, but it was a lot of my actions were questioned. And I think, to your point, if I hadn't celebrated myself and got back into the car after a family outing and I didn't drink and almost everyone else was, I sat in the car and I'm like, Matt, you did it. Like, you didn't drink in an environment where you normally would. That's awesome. Like, you stayed true to who you're becoming. And I think that's huge, especially to your point. At the time I was single, and now my wife is a huge cheerleader, me for her and her for me. But it was just me and myself at the time. And if I hadn't celebrated some of that new identity that I was forming, I might have gone back and said, all right, give me the shot, give me the beer, let's just give me the dessert and let's go back down that path. So that was a great point about celebrating, because I think I did it in a quiet way in the beginning, but it was almost like a little pat on the back, like you made it through another day, another party, another event.
Yeah. It's a reframe. It's like success is not how much fun I had with the boys at the party or whatever, or how many girls I talked to. Because that's what keeps you trapped in the old habits, is the reinforcement by meeting the needs and with that vehicle, right? It's switching it. The celebration, the achievement is the fact that I didn't drink, because it's associated with a new identity. And that new identity, I think, is written out and said well prior to it's felt. You're not supposed to feel your new identity because you are not it yet. It starts in your mind, and it starts with what you say and what you do. And then it becomes you. Does that make sense? Like, I know what I'm going to wear before I'm wearing it.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to wear is going to change if I act different, if I walk towards this part of the wardrobe instead of that part of the wardrobe. This is a long-winded metaphor, but if I want to wear that, I'm walking here. And so I've got to keep myself, reminding myself, telling myself how I'm going to feel good, look good, creating a good feeling about moving towards that outfit in the wardrobe until I wear it. And now I'm in it. I'm like, it's me. And so now I'm looking for the next identity, which is an improvement of the one that I've got. Because I think identity is fluid. It's a continuum, and it's moving in directions based off of how we're influenced and we're reinforced, or positively or negatively, from our environment, what we do and stuff. So you said two things I want to touch on. One is, your identity is you don't feel it yet. You celebrate the things that you would be doing from that identity. Like James, the CEO, how does he act? Is he doing this, or is he doing something else? It's like, man, he'd be doing something else. And you go, okay, so in this moment, I'm going to act like that person that I want to be, that identity I want to have, so that it becomes my identity. Because it either happens actively through what you're doing, or it happens passively. Like, people don't realize this. It's like, decide how you want your life to go, or it's going to be fucking decided for you by the environment and what you just like naturally trend towards. So make a decision, because you're deciding by not deciding. Your decision was to not decide. And you're just like, let's see how we go, right? And that might go well. It's probably not going to go well. You know what I mean? There's more cities that you don't want to be hanging out in than there are cities that you do. So when you go and pick your plane ticket, don't do roulette to figure it out, because you're probably going to end up somewhere that you're like, that was average, versus like, at least in this vicinity, somewhere warm, somewhere stable, somewhere happy, right? I think that matters so much.
I think that matters huge too. I think the wardrobe analogy makes a lot of sense. And you're right too. Just having I remember one of my first mentors when I got into speaking, and I told him that, I want to speak more. I want to do more. And this is like in 2019. And he's like, all right, Matt, like, how many speeches do you want to give in a year? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, well, there's no target. Like, if you don't have a target and something to shoot at, then how could you get anywhere? And it was really hit home for me of that idea of where do you want to go? And I think something I'm still working on myself with my identity, and getting to chat with you, James, has been awesome for this as well. But to think bigger, and to what you said on it, if you don't make a plan for your life, life is going to make a plan for you, and you probably won't like it. I've been there. For 15 years, I did that plan. It didn't work out. And I think once we have that target, and we're like, I know there's this thing with like minimalists, and like, I think I'm an intentionalist, where I intentionally want to do certain things and actions. And my wife and I will talk about, well, how can we hike on the Camino for 3 weeks in Portugal and Spain for a honeymoon? It's like, well, let's make it happen. Like, let's do it. There's a target and something we're aiming at. And for me, anyways, that helps. I don't know if that's a little ADHD in me, if that's the brain that I have, or it helps anybody. But to have the focus on a target is now, okay, let's aim big and let's go for it. See what happens.
We've got to be simultaneously like wildly driven and completely content. And I think that's the paradox. If you're not content, you'll never be happy. And so no matter what you achieve, you won't feel good, and that achievement will feel empty. But at the same time, if you are completely content with nothing, then you will have no impact. And so, like, and I'm going to butcher this, and I'm new in my faith, but I apologize for everybody listening to this. I had an idea. Jesus said, you don't need much. Love everyone else. Look after people, etc. Stand up for stuff. He wasn't like, oh yeah, go and make a bunch of money and get rich and do stuff. But he also didn't sit there and go, I feel good, and I'm just going to stay in this one tiny place and do nothing. There was a duality from my zero understanding, growing understanding, of contentment for what you have while still having big goals, big purpose, big dreams. Because if you're doing nothing, you're going to impact no one. And there's so many people that have even less than you in terms of motivation, drive, presence, celebration, gratitude, that if I'm growing, it's selfish for me not to contribute from the growth that I'm having, to not maybe inspire somebody else. And I think that's the human story, is we rise up and then we grow. Like, if I wasn't starting companies, I wouldn't be employing people. I wouldn't be creating the results that I'm creating. And so I get rewarded for that, but that's secondary to the mission. And a lot of people get caught up in the achievement side of things, which is why there's this perspective of like, eat the rich, and rich people are causing all my problems. But then on the flip side, doing nothing is also causing a lot of problems, and even more problems. And so really, I think the balance between that, and I think perspective that more of us should have, from my opinion, is big, dirty goals that we're going after, direction, targets, massive, really strong reasons why, that are outside of just achieving things for the sake of it, because you're not going to do it if it's only for you anyway. There's going to be, who am I going to become? Who am I going to inspire? Who am I going to help? What stories am I going to tell because of the journey? Because if you're just attached to the outcome, you're not going to survive. Like, if you were just trying to not be addicted to alcohol so that you could have a podcast and tell people about it, like, and I'm not saying that's what you do, but like, let's say that was the target, right? It's like, you would not have got there, because it's a hell of a lot harder than just this cool thing I think I'm going to get at the end. It's about who I'm going to become in the journey. But the target is the direction. And then that will shift as you go. But at the same time, every single day when I wake up, and every single moment I put my head down to go to sleep at the end of the day, it's like, I felt really good about that day. Irrespective of what I achieved, I feel super content with what I have. And if this is all I will get ever, and if this is my last day, I felt good. If I don't wake up tomorrow, I know that I felt good. I think balancing those two things is the spiritual path, if you will, for fulfillment, for success. I've noticed myself being able to achieve more when I've had that frame, because the intention is different. It's felt different. The energy you bring is different. It inspires people. Yeah, too many of us are too fixated on the outcome and not who we're becoming in the journey, Yeah,
James, that's something I love how you just went there, because I'm working on that constantly. And maybe you are too, as far as just like achieving and going for more and thinking bigger. And then, to your point, being content while that's all happening. And as you're saying that, I think I've done both. I'm learning more on I'm more content than I've ever been, and also more driven than I've ever been. And I think I had a fear of, if I get content, I won't be driven anymore. So don't be content, for many years. And that helped. I think that helped me reach goals, but also not enjoy as certain goals and some parts of that journey were happening, because I think I was acting out of fear, where it was fear-based, where if I'm content, then I won't achieve anything ever again. Like, so I got to keep achieving, keep achieving, keep achieving. And that's fear-based. And now it is what I have been working on. The Bible's been a huge help for me too. And you did a great job explaining the story of Jesus there, what he's
Appreciate
describing.
you.
I know, I love that. I got a Bible sitting right here, so I read it every morning. That's how I think I've learned it the most, is through him, where it's, yes, we can be so blessed and grateful. You said, talking about the desk, I relate to that in a huge way, where you can be grateful for such little things, and then coming from a point of gratitude to setting the goals and enjoying the journey is such a different experience than, I'm scared to death that I'm going to go backwards, so now let's go forwards. That's such fear driven. And I think I show up differently depending on those psychologies.
I think there's an element of like immature masculine in that. I think that as men, we're driven to conquer and achieve in our nature. And I think that there's part of learning to control that and learning to understand what the power is. Like, I was at the relationship seminar, Tony Robbins Platinum Group seminar recently, and we talked about the stages of development. And we go through the stage of the knight, where we're out conquering dragons and things like that. But there comes a point where we have to change to a prince, where it's now not about our achievement, it's about something greater. And we go through the 3 stages of the prince. And if you don't, you become this tired knight. It's that dude that, that's still at the bar, still goes to the parties, trying to reminisce in the lifestyle. And it's like, you're 40, dude. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, what's that movie with Will Ferrell, and he's like the tank or whatever?
Frank the Tank.
Goes,
old school.
Yeah, old school, right? And it's like still living the night dream, because they haven't matured in the process of realizing that it is more than just the achievement. And then we go into our tunnel, and then we come out the other side as a king, when we realize that there's a kingdom that we're looking after, and there's a maturing in that masculine. And I think that all of us go through it to some degree, because I resonate with that. Like, I'm only 35, but I'm acutely aware of that now, that I'm halfway to 70. You know what I mean? I'm based on life expectancy, I'm almost middle-aged. Like, we call 50 middle-aged. It's like, no, age is like 30, 35, 40. And I had a friend die of cancer, and I had a cancer scare myself. And it's like, wow, like, life is finite, and decisions we make really influence our future. And I'm living a life as a consequence of decisions that this young dude made. And he made some good ones, and he made some not so good ones. And there's ones that I'm making now that are great for 45-year-old James. And there's ones that I'm making for James right now that I need to shift, that are not great for 45-year-old James. And I've become acutely aware of that dynamic of, like, the decision I'm making is not for me. It's for 37 James, 39 James, 40 James, hopefully 99 James. Because 80-year-old James is going to be like, screw you, dude. Like, you didn't take care of my knees, bastard. You didn't take care of my mind. You didn't take care of my bank account, whatever. And I think a lot of people listening to this, like, you're going to resonate. You're like, yeah, shit, 25-year-old so-and-so didn't take care of me. And so when we go back to that selfish thing, it is selfish to not think about older James and what's he going to be like. Because if I'm not sleeping for this person, and they're outside of my value circle, and I'm in the center of my value circle, because if I'm not taken care of, then I can't take care of anybody else in that circle. Then I must make sure that I'm taken care of. I think, just to caveat there, I think the selfish aspect is where we're taking care of ourselves in spite of those in our value circle. And there's a line there. But what I'm saying in principle is, like, take care of you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, etc., so that you can be that center. And for us as men, learning to control that desire to achieve so that it can be directed towards something that grows the kingdom rather than just slays the dragons. And then we're in the tavern, telling war stories instead of, leading our family and building something. And it feels like you've reconciled some of that. I'm definitely reconciling some of that. So Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I thank you for making me feel old that I'm past halfway through my life, James, at the same time. But that's true. I mean, I have this thing on my wall. I'm sitting here looking at it, and it's like it's a mock. Here, I'll pull it up. Now that we're chatting about it, here it is. I have this on my wall, and it's like a fake gravestone of, it's not real. It's, Google image or whatever, but I printed off a fake grave site headstone of my name, and then I was born in 1983, and then there's that dash there, and it's like, I don't know what year that's going to be. I hope it's not 2026, but it could be 2030, it could be 2083, and it's just like a constant reminder of who knows how long it's going to be, and why not enjoy today. And hopefully with consistency, if I see that every day, that helps me stay in a positive mindset. And it even helps me take certain actions of, did I call my parents this week? If I knew this is the last week, would I call my parents? Yeah, absolutely, I would. I'd pick up the phone and call my freaking parents and just tell them I love them, even if it's a 3-minute conversation. And I think you're so right on that this idea of time, I think there's like, doing a lot of thinking about this, it seems like there's 3 currencies out there, where it's health, wealth, and time. And clearly we can, for the most part, make more money. Like we can often do that. We can, depending on age, work on our health, but time is the one we all know that it's the one that's finite, period. And trying to max out that time while also rolling it all together and being content and relaxing. And I don't know if you're good at this, James, but my wife and I often joke, I'm getting better at it now, where for the first time in probably a year, we sat down and just watched a movie last week. And it was awesome. Like, it was so fun because we hadn't done it in so long. And oftentimes we'll just, if it's night, we'll sit on the couch and just have a great conversation with music in the background. But to relax and just enjoy a movie every now and then was like, it was fun. Like, we celebrated that. We enjoyed that.
Something to your gravestone thing. I bought this morbid poster, and it was like, it was counting down to life expectancy. And it was like, and so every week or whatever, you're ticking a thing off. And when I got it, I was like, oh, wow, look at all this. And then I had to fill it in to catch up. I was like, holy shit, this is all gone. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? And did it matter that I'm going to sit on my rocking chair and be like, yeah, that was awesome. I got great memories from that. And so Darcy came to my room once, my office, and she's like, what the hell is that, James? And I told her, and she goes, oh my God. It was like 2024, we sold everything, including a house, car, everything, and packed up and traveled. Like I was telling you, pre-show, 8 countries, 18 cities. And then we came back to New Zealand for Christmas and some birthdays. And now we're in Japan, and we've got maybe 4 to 5 countries this year. And we're just going to travel until it isn't fun anymore. And I've really started doing this principle of like, I'm going to do it until it's not fun anymore. And if it keeps being fun and I keep finding the fun in it, then I'm just going to keep doing whatever that thing is, and I'm not going to judge it. Because like you said, I think you said, talk about, you watched a movie and learning to relax or whatever. I also would say that it's not about not working. It's not about not building. It's not about not doing. I think you can do that if you want, but I think it's about going, I'm going to do those big, dirty goal things, and I'm just going to enjoy every single minute of it, because I can sit and do nothing and be present and feed my chickens. That's one way. And I can also just build a whole lot of crazy stuff and just love it. So there is no judgment between living in a van or a tent on a hill and having nothing and enjoying it, and being Elon Musk and trying to have 7 companies worth $1 trillion and moving us all to Mars. What matters is whether you are grateful every day and are appreciative and enjoying what you're doing. Because somebody's kid said to me, they were eating something weird, and I was like, ooh, that's gross. And they said to me, don't yuck my yum. And I was like, where did you get that from? And they're like, my dad tells it to me all the time. I think we need to stop yucking people's yums, and knowing that we're judging because we don't understand from our frame why they like that. But that doesn't mean that they have to do what we want and that we have to do what they want. But it might require us to change our perspective, because maybe we would get something from it if we could find joy and contentment in the journey, not just the destination. So for me, every day that I get to work on my companies or build new things or use AI for stuff or whatever I'm doing, I'm really enjoying that and I'm feeling good about what I'm creating. And then I have to balance with children and wife, because those parts of the circle matter to me as well. But it's like, yeah, you don't, listening to this, like you don't have to go and relax at all. In fact, I might say don't. You just have to enjoy whatever you're doing and love the process and not just the destination, because the destination is going to come and you're going to be like, this sucks. Like, let me go do something else. Like most people, they die or whatever, like after they retire. Why? Because they've got nothing to do. You lose purpose. You've got to have purpose. And so your work can be that. Just enjoy the process. It's going to be ups and downs. Things are going to be shitty, but life is shitty sometimes. You kick your toe and it like feels like it's going to fall off. That sucks. But then you laugh about it and there's a memory and you can use it as part of your little.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I wrote that down. Build it and love it. I love it. And the journey is everything. I mean, it truthfully is. And I love the idea of building it and loving it. And I was even thinking as you were talking, James, about the concept of, like, I know you love to travel. We love to travel. And I think about, I don't think I could just, and you're obviously not doing this, but I don't think I could just travel and take everything in for like a year or two, because I want to be building or adding value to the world. And that's, to your point, that's what I like. I know that's what you love too. And I love the idea of then also not judging if somebody wants to sell everything and buy a house and just live with him and his wife and do nothing for 40 years. Like, God bless you if that's what you love to do. It seems like it all comes back around to what your values are and what do you align with. And the concept of traveling until it's not fun anymore, I mean, I think that's really cool, even though you might be traveling until your wife doesn't think it's fun anymore. I don't know. We'll see how it plays
And then it won't be
out.
fun for me, right? It'll be hard to live with. So I think that's the dynamic. I've made a decision to be with a person, and so we work on whatever. It's not fun if it's not fun. If it's not fun for her, it's not fun for me. In a non-controlling way, just a pure connection way. I think we all just have to reconcile with the outcomes we're creating and the choices we're making, and that doesn't mean settle. That means come to terms with. I can lose my leg and it can be the worst thing in the world, or I can lose my leg and now I've got a shot to get a gold medal at the Paralympics. It all comes down to perspective. And so it's not that things happen to us, as Tony says, they happen for us. And we are making choices because of the frame of reference that we have. And so if we want to alter that identity, we get access to new choices. If my identity now is that I'm a public speaker, I now get choices to maybe travel the world or be on stage or whatever. If I choose to quit that, I now have choices to spend time with my family. So everything, part of your identity results in optionality that you have to be okay with or reconcile with. I try and live by this concept that we live two lives, and the second one starts when you realize you only have one. And that was real for me, like super real. I was messing with like memento mori and memento vivere and like, and these concepts of like, remember that you can die, but then remember to live. And I was like, what does this mean? And for me, then somebody said it and I was like, oh yeah, there's two lives. The second one starts when you realize you only got one. And I was like, wow. And so the death calendar was kind of like an obtuse way of pointing that out to myself. So I love that you've gone to work and made a little image for yourself and even put it in a frame. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, just so you know, real quick, I had a buddy of mine send me that same thing that you're talking about, because like the frame was slightly cracked. So they sent him a new one and he sent me his, and he's like 10 years younger than me. And when I got it, exactly what you just said, I'm scratching them off like, my goodness, like it took me 15 minutes to just scratch off down to the age that I'm at. And part of me is like excited because I got to now like be more urgent. And the other part of me is like devastated because there's 42 years behind me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I think you'll never fully reconcile. Like they say, you regret what you don't do more than what you do, because you obviously just reconcile what you do, but you can't reconcile what you didn't do. And that stuck with me because I think about the things that I would like to do that I haven't done or I'm not doing. And I'm like, man, I need to go and do that. Like I got my motorcycle license just because I was like, now I've got it. Like I want to get my pilot's license because then I can be like, yeah, grandkids, I got my pilot's license. Like I flew like 20 minutes, but I got it, So for me, it's just, I want to do these things so I can feel like I've lived enough and I've done the things that were possible for me. And it's fickle, but it's not about, like, I know that people will receive this maybe the wrong way. For me, it's not just ticking stuff off and getting accolades or whatever. For me, it is Ironically, Jake Paul said it. People say things to him all the time like that's impossible. And his frame is, we'll see. It's impossible. We'll see. Right? Because I'm going to go and try and do it. And I loved that. And so for me, it's like pilot's license. Nah, that's crazy. And I'm like, is it? We'll see. Right? I'm going to go and do it. And then do I like flying? I don't know. We'll see. Do I like doing this? Do I like this? So now for me, I've got an unhealthy obsession with different drinks. So if I'm in Japan, I'm like, what is that? I need to try that. Right? Or like if it's a new food or something like that, I'm like, what is that? And I come home with random things from like 7-Eleven. Japan 7-Eleven, by the way, is like next level. It's not American 7-Eleven, which is gross.
Really?
This is like fresh food. It's a vibe. It's a whole thing. Look it up. It's amazing.
I will.
Anyway, and like I'll see something, I'm like, I got to try that. I got to taste this thing. I got to do this thing. Because for me, it's that feeling of, I don't know if I'll like it, so I'll go and do it and go, yeah, I didn't like that. Or I did like that. Oh, well, that's interesting. And so I love trying new things or seeing a new Netflix show that's, a random new thing or whatever. And so the pilot license for me is on that list of, I might love it, I might hate it, but I'm going to go and do it because that fills me up. And my phone is filled with, I looked at the other day, there's 63,000 photos or something like that on there. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of photos. That should be 100,000 because I should be taking more photos of things, of everything that's going on around me, because there will be a point in time where that's all I have is my photos. So I got to make sure that I got some good ones. So I don't know what life's going to look like because it's getting weird with AI. We'll talk about this in a minute. But I'm anticipating that we will be able to upload our life and then it will be able to manufacture a movie with a story and a narrator and whatever the hell we want to just relive our life through a virtual reality or a video or whatever. I don't know how they're going to plug it into my brain somehow, relive my memories, but it will come from the documentation that I've got. And so we've got a big emphasis at the moment of documenting. So our nanny, like her job is take photos and videos of whatever the kids are doing. I don't care, because some of the best things to look at, you don't have kids yet, but dude, there's some of the best things to look at is a random video of your kid doing almost nothing, but it was like 3 years ago. And because suddenly all these memories come back. You don't remember all the terrible stuff and the tantrums or whatever, but you this wave of memories come back because I'm watching this like 3-minute video of him like trying to put a block in something or like doing some random crap, and I'm like, man, I need more of that. So we've actually started vlogging everything we do just to document what we're up to. A lot of people want to see what we're up to. We're obviously doing some cool stuff, but it's for me to have a record of like stuff we did and where we went and I don't know where I'm going with this, but anyway. To everyone, take more photos.
Yeah, no, that's a great takeaway, to take more photos. And that's also, I'm sure we might only be months or a year away from what you just said with you upload your photos and here's an hour and 20-minute movie of your life with a AI narrator behind it. I wouldn't be surprised. I had never thought of that until you said it, but that's really interesting.
There's some funny videos of like babies and whatever. They AI the video and then it becomes, and I don't know if you've seen recently, NVIDIA just released DSLL or something 5. So I like playing video games. I haven't in like a year because I've been too busy. But there was this, how to put it, graphics would improve in video games because they had to like force the improvement of it and then do better art and stuff like that. And then NVIDIA's got this thing which upscales stuff, and it's doing it kind of frame by frame so that you can have a better video feed of your game, but you don't have to have the same level of hardware you needed to before to get that. Well, I've just released this new thing. Dude, you need to look it up. It's NVIDIA's DSLR something 5. It's insane. So it'll take any old video game and it will upscale it to AI rendered human lookingness. Like the detail is insane. The lighting's insane. And what this immediately, like I've been saying this for years, like it is going to be indistinguishable from reality. But what I realized was we can take anything and we can upscale it to be lifelike, indistinguishable from reality. So I can have some photos that show a semi-sequence of activities that happened, and it will be able to render that as a movie, albeit it won't necessarily be what actually happened. But if there's enough context from enough photos or enough video clips that kind of give the context of the day, it will be able to extrapolate the rest of it. And because all of our memories are distorted anyway, we're going to be able to have these memories of this thing we did that we didn't record from angles that we didn't record from in a 3-dimensional and engaging movie from the thing that, do you understand what I'm saying? Like it's getting really weird, but really cool at the same time.
I mean, we talk about this all the time. It's I don't think there's a better way to put it. It's getting really weird, but it's fun to play around with it. It's fun to see. I look up AI stuff almost every day and just mess around with it and just see. And I know nothing about coding or anything, and I'm able to just in a few prompts and uploading a picture, like do stuff that seemed impossible 7 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
What are you doing these days? Business wise, work, what's your focus at the moment?
You know what? I do a lot of, one of my main focuses is doing a lot of speaking. I've been doing a lot. Speaking is, I think part of why I love it is because I was so scared of it for so many years of my life, and then getting some experience under my belt, and then wanting to give some stories and experience back to people who can benefit from it has been huge for me. So that's a main focus of mine. I actually do for fun, but it's also a business. I do a lot of race MCing. I'm a race announcer at the start finish line of these different events.
Yeah.
And some of them are, there's thousands of runners, and it's a rush to be out there and adding value to each of these events, because you almost control the environment a little bit when you're able to be on the microphone. And I like that pressure to see if I can get my energy up high enough to hopefully impact at least a little bit each of the runners. So those have been the two of the main things. I've actually been focused a little bit more on YouTube content, and when I'm doing public speaking, which I love doing around Colorado, which is where we live, and then around the United States mainly as well. I'm learning more about YouTube and putting video content up and making it look good is, I guess, the big thing for me. I've put out a lot of content, and now I'm trying to really nail down what looks good. And that's where AI comes in. It's fun to make these thumbnails, and you can put the closed caption underneath and make it look cool. It's fun to be able to do some of that stuff, having not a ton of ability 6 months ago with it.
Yeah, I'm realizing like there's this existential threat feeling for a lot of people with AI. And I think that people are missing the fact that this has always happened with technological shifts. Like, where are the dudes who used to get whale oil? What happened to them? You know what I mean? Like, electricity came along and the whole industry died. And what do? They pivoted or they didn't. Like, what about the people who looked after horses or picked up horse crap off the street? Like, there were probably jobs for that. Like, there's a lot of things that have always changed. And I think that what we need to accept is that things change and we have to adapt. But also, there's a lot of stuff that required skill only because we didn't have better technology. And once we got better technology, the skill for that thing isn't as necessary for the mass production of stuff, but it's still necessary for, the cool things that we might want to enjoy. And so for me, I said this on another episode recently, I was really into like Photoshop for ages. And it was a hobby of mine. I was like, I'm going to figure out how to do these composition images. And I spent hours like picking pictures off the internet and then pixel by pixel, improving resolution and layering them and creating masks and like trying to make, my wife look like a werewolf or whatever. Like this is like 10 years ago. And I'm like obsessing over doing this. And then it came out on an iPad. And I was like, I can use a pen on my iPad. This is insane. I can do this wherever I am. I don't need this powerful computer, blah, blah, blah. And now it's a completely almost unnecessary skill in my opinion, because I can just be like, hey, make my wife a werewolf. Nah, she needs to have bigger teeth. And it's just done. And I don't know if you've done Photoshop lately, but you can circle stuff and be like, make this here. And then it doesn't just stick something there. It contextually integrates it into the rest of the image so that it looks like that. Like, for example, I could take a picture of you. I can just it'll extract you out, change your background, put you wherever, make your beard longer. Like it'll just do stuff. And I'm realizing that all that AI is doing and all that technology is doing is just condensing the time it takes to achieve a particular outcome. But what actually matters, because where we get confused, is we think that's the value. And I think it's becoming more and more apparent that the value is not in the making. The value is in knowing what to make, and more importantly, getting it to people. Because people are, I don't know how much you're in the AI space, but people are making a lot of pointless stuff, in my opinion. I'm like, they're making these things and I'm like, it's pointless. You probably got some course you're trying to sell me on AI. The truth is that we just need to understand the problem we're trying to solve, so that the technology, however advanced it is, when I decide to look at it, allows me to go to market. I started building our homeschooling platform, LearnSpark, a year ago, and it took me ages to get it to where it was in like December. And then technology's changed and it's way more complicated, way more effective, way better. And I have no developers, and it took me less than half the time to make something 5 times as good. And I'm like, I could have just waited and the technology would have been better and I would have got it faster. And in that moment, I had this epiphany that there's no point in trying to understand all the stuff, because by the time you do, it's already changed. So don't try and be on the front. Instead, focus on what am I going to do with where I think AI is going, so that I can make stuff for a year from now when the technology does that. Like, you know how we talked about, upload photos and it makes a movie of your life or whatever? There may not be the technology right now to do that in an easy way. But if I'm building a market for a product towards when it's going to be there, when it is there, I'm already ready. And so for me with LearnSpark, my hallucination is, through talking to a lot of people and knowing people, is that education is moving towards AI tutors, because that's people using the technology. And what they're going to realize is, I actually want my kid to be a human being, not a robot. So we're going to go back to group-based and self-education, homeschooling, using technology to assist us, not replace us. And I'm seeing this more. People are more taking their kids off devices. We're getting technology out of schools. On one hand, everybody's moving towards AI. And on the other, I think there's going to be this reconciling of the only thing left that is real is human interaction. Like, if I can put on a VR headset and go to the Eiffel Tower and then go wherever Great Wall of China, can do all the stuff instantly for free, what's left? Fucking going to the Eiffel Tower's left. You know what I mean? Like, touching the Great Wall of China, that's what's left. And so the irony is, we all use the technology to go, this is awesome. And then we go, but real life is kind of better. And so maybe half the planet will just live in fantasy land. And the rest of us are going to go, the only thing left is human interaction. So speaking engagements, watching an actual human talk, not a robot, because that's not real. You know what I mean? I think that's where we're actually going to move towards. So you're in the right space, in the speaking space.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I love that you said that, James, because I align with that fully. I was talking to a good buddy just recently about that, and just thinking, as we talked about all the AI and what you just explained, I agree. I think and it sounds like it's already happening in the schools, that there's going to be this shift of realizing how incredible human interaction is face to face. And I almost wonder if there's going to be this quasi revolution to go more like, and it seems like it's already happening, where experiences and retreats and these events are getting more popular because you physically are there with somebody, versus constantly, on AI, virtual, whatever. I think that trend is really interesting. And the fact that they're already starting to do that in the schools I think that's really, really cool, because we have a good friend of ours, and their daughter, I think let's just say she's going to be 3, hasn't really seen a screen at all. And they want her outside doing a lot of fun stuff. And we love that. And I guess also there's this part where you want kids to know how to use the tools, but then also appreciate real life, and realizing that nothing's going to be better than, like, if you're hugging somebody on a virtual reality, it's not the same as hugging or high-fiving a human being in real life. And I think it's a fascinating time. I'm with you though. I'm more embracing it, because I'm sure you talk to people all the time that say they're scared of AI. And I'm like, have you done anything with it? Well, no, I haven't. And if we're pushing against it and just putting our heads in the sand, I think we will fall behind quickly. So I love learning about it, but also there's nothing better than the human interaction, I don't think, either.
Like, our kids, we obviously homeschool our kids, and we're teaching them math. And I'm not teaching them math to ever have to do math, because AI will be doing all the math. I'm teaching him math so he understands how to think and what questions to ask, because that's what's going to matter. Because we will get to a point where we won't have humans doing the calculated stuff to figure out how to make the AI work. It'll be humans orchestrating AIs to make AIs, and the art of math done by humans will be something that people do for fun. Like, playing the piano is for fun, because you can make all the music you want on a computer. So why are you learning piano, right? I can make better music with virtual and have no skill on a piano than with a piano. I'm doing it because it's the art of the piano. It's kind of like, I'm in Japan and there's people that make samurai swords still. Why? It is like completely pointless, because you're not going to go to war with it. No one's going to have a sword battle with you. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many layers to this. but the art of doing it is interesting and engaging, and they're keeping the art alive. I think it'll be the same thing, keeping the art of mathematics alive. Back in the day, we used to do math. We used to do science. Like these things are going to be just like making samurai swords, because it will be a dead technology, because we will be orchestrating AIs to do those things. And so no human will be able to do the computing at the level necessary to manage the systems that are there. Just like I learned calculus in high school. It took people their entire career and like 100 years to be able to do calculus. And I'm just doing it, in high school, because technology advanced. I had calculators to help me. The ways we do things improved, so that a child can do this thing that a man spent his entire life trying to figure out and could barely do, right? And that's the same thing with this stuff. So for my children, it's how do you be really good with people is our big focus, because that's all that's going to matter. And how do you be curious? How do you ask questions? How do you understand what you're trying to do and why are you doing it, more than just, do I know how to do math, do grammar, have good handwriting? My handwriting sucks. It has forever. I always told my grandparents, who were like, James, you've got to get better handwriting. I'm like, I'm never going to be writing anything in my life. Sure enough, I was right. I don't even type anymore. I do voice to text because it's faster. I can talk at 130 words a minute or whatever, but I can't write or that fast. I can't type that fast. So these things are not about, you're not learning the skill to do anything with it. You're learning the skill because as a biologically limited creature, these are important parts of your overall development, is how I'm seeing things right now. Because we're doing a lot in AI in our businesses, like replacing processes and tightening things up and making it more effective. I think it's going to do a hell of a lot more good than it will do harm. And I think that anyone who says it's doing all this harm, I think that they've got something to sell you. And it could just be the idea they want to sell you, because this is human history has been about technological changes. I think we've got a lot of adapting to do. And I also think that it's happening very quickly, whereas normally, it took a generation for things to change. Now it's taking 6 months for things to change. But we'll adapt to the fact that it's fast, and we'll just get used to it. And, as we always do, I believe in humans,
Oh, that's the punchline of the whole conversation is I'm with you. I will believe in the human race until there's a reason not to. And I don't see a reason not to at this stage myself either. I also want to just share how I love how you said, I wrote that down, that you're teaching your kids how to be good with people and learn how to interact with people. And then my wife and I talk about this word all the time, which is, even though we've known each other for a while, continue to be curious about the other person. And you mentioned curiosity. I find people fascinating across the board. It doesn't matter where we are. I'm with you. I'm the one that's like, I think my wife's like, oh man, I knew you were going to talk to somebody, because we do both love actually to talk to just random people and learn from them. And I think we can learn from everybody. As I think Tony said, everyone's life is either an example or a warning, and you can learn from both. I just think that's really cool that you're teaching your kids that in an age where a lot of it is virtual or AI, and you're going out there and putting them in front of real human beings. I think that's awesome.
My son was on the chairlift the other day. So my littlest one, I had to go with him on the chairlift, and my wife was tired from skiing. And so she's like, guys, I'm out. But the kids wanted to keep going. And I was like, okay, well, all right. Milan could probably do the chairlift himself, but I'll put him on a chairlift with some adults. So me being me, I'm just like, hey, you happy to go on the chairlift with my kid? And the person's like, oh, okay, yes, sure. And so every time we got down to the bottom, it was like, who did I spot that I had briefly assessed? I was like, you're not dodgy. Do you want to go on the chairlift with my kid? And this teenage dude or this older lady or whatever, they're just like, okay, yeah, sure. And then I'm sitting behind. So they go first, and then so I can watch and help if they fall or whatever at the top. And I'm seeing, and my son is just like talking their ear off, and he's telling them about us, and we travel, and we were here, and now we're doing this, and what do you do? And have you had a fun day? And he's just like talking to them. And every time there was one guy who was just completely disconnected, but everyone else, when they got off, they're like, oh, well, your son's like, it was fun. He's really smart, and he loves talking. And I was like, yeah. They're like, how old is he? I was like, he's 7. And they're like, holy crap, he's 7? Because he's showing up as someone legitimately interested in them and asking questions and trying to learn. And then he tells them about his interests. It's been really fun to watch, because I've always said to them, it's easy to make friends. Just talk about the thing that they care about. Find out what they like and talk about it. and then
So true.
see if there's something that you guys share of common interest. And if there is not, then that's a nice person. And if they're a friend, you have a lot of common overlap and you can talk about all the same stuff and love it. Now you've got a friend. And so that's what they do. They just talk and they find things that are relatable. And then if they are, like, I made a friend. So our thing is like, how many friends did you make today? I'm like, I made 3. And it's because to us, especially with traveling, a friend is not just someone that you must spend all this time with. A friend is a person that you can say hey to and immediately engage in a conversation, even if you haven't seen them in a while. A friend is a connection that you grow over time, whether you are in close proximity or not. That's how I view it. For me, it's like, that's a friend. Family is someone that you then do spend a lot of time with, but a friend is anyone that you can connect with about stuff and have your own little world. And so that's been the approach we've taken. And I'm seeing it now come out with my older one and even my younger one. Like, he'll see a kid and he just goes up to them and he's just like, hey, basically, I'm paraphrasing. It's like, hey, let's be friends. But he's not saying that. But then they're just like friends and now we're hanging out with their parents or whatever. It's been amazing. And travel has been a big part of helping that, because you don't have the luxury of being in a place with someone for a long amount of time for friendship to develop out of just proximity. Instead, you've got 5 minutes to make that friend, and then we might hang out with them for a month while we're here. So it's imperative that they are quick to build rapport, get connection, understand, is this someone that I like, I want to spend time with, and then boom, we're sharing numbers, we're hanging out. And so it's been really cool to see.
Yeah, that building rapport quick, what a skill that they will use for the rest of their lives. That's extremely powerful, especially I can tell you this, if your son, 7 years old, started chatting with me, I would probably just like make sure I kept riding around with him. I'm like, this kid's awesome. I'm having a blast with it.
Well, something that I realized, somebody said it to me once, it's like, you're basically, I think it was Jordan Peterson kind of alluded to it. You've got like 4 years to make your kid into somebody that adults want to spend time with. Because if you don't, then you end up with a child that adults don't want to be around because of their behavior and their self-control, etc., which heavily limits their future potential, because everything's going to come from opportunity and it's going to be adults to start with. And that's going to shape them, because how adults interact with them and who their friends become, that's more influential than you. Like, the most influential person in a child's life is their parent, their friend's parents, because their friend's parents parent their friend, and their friend is who they spend time with. So you got to pick who your kid is around, which we get to do because we travel, right? They're not just in a public school meeting, whoever. But B, it's how the adults in their life interact with that child dramatically increase the outcomes for them in their life, because opportunity, love, education. Like, if your child, if no one wants to be around your child, then they're not going to learn. Like, I've got a lot to share, but if your child, I don't want to be around them, or like, I don't want my kid to be around them, then unfortunately, as sad as it is to that child, I love them as a person, but I'm also going to pick who I'm around. I'm going to pick who my kids are around. They will miss out on that opportunity to learn from me or whoever else it is. And so I've really taken that to heart, to go, do people like being around my children? Do they want to share and talk to my children? Because if they do, it's a massive asset for my children in their development.
Yeah, that's a great way. That's a really great way to look at that. And it seems like they have no problem talking to the kids or the adults. I think that's such a really awesome thing for them to learn at such a young age, that just because he's 7 and he's 50 doesn't mean he can't be curious about a 50-year-old. And I'm sure the 50-year-old is fascinated by what your 7-year-old is saying. And I just think that's all part of the beauty of life to me.
Yeah, 100%. Well, dude, we are going on, and I'm conscious of your time, Matt. I appreciate you.
I love it.
Is there anything that you want to share with our audience that they can go and check out you, or check out what you're about, some resources you might have?
Yeah, I mean, they're happy to. My podcast is called Challenges Build Champions on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I mean, if anyone wants to reach out to talk about anything in more depth that we discussed, whether it's ultra running or public speaking or podcasting, whatever, I'm most active on Instagram, which is just my name, at Matt Scoletti, and my website is the same name. So yeah, I would love to connect with anybody that resonated with any of this. And I'm always in for some back and forth banter with awesome human beings. So I'm sure anybody listening to this who's a fan of you is a pretty amazing man or woman, James. So thanks for having me on. This has been a blast.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Matt. I'll make sure that's all in the show notes. Thank you so much, Matt. And I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Sounds good, brother. Thanks, James.
That's this week's Protocol 1. If you want to know exactly where you stand across all 6 vectors, take the free assessment at 6vectorassessment.com. It takes 5 minutes. The truth takes less. Don't settle.